Barbara. How are you? Oh, you're so wide awake. Morning, Gordy. Well, I see you're stuck in your
It's hours before the first visitors arrive.
You know how to read this morning?
A time for morning greetings and the day's first meal.
People look at these animals and they see an animal that sleeps up to 20 hours a day, and it's kind of difficult to recognize that an animal that sleeps that much can actually have a personality, but they really do. They're very unique animals too, and so they're really fascinating. They're actually marsupials rather than bears. A lot of times people call them bears. That probably originated because they look sort of like teddy bears.
It's a privilege to be able to have a part to play in preserving an animal as magnificent as the Przewalski horse, or as a tapir, or as a gorilla or orangutan, or almost any of the species you can see here at the zoo. These are part of the treasure of biological resources of our planet, and they've been on the verge of extinction, and now they're coming back. And the most fantastic thing would be able to participate in seeing that they go back into nature. That's really one of the big goals.
Without zoos and without game preserves, certain animals will disappear because I believe in some years to come there really won't be wild animals. They will be managed in some way or other. I like to be part of that.
The world to me would be a very, very lonely place if we were the only species inhabiting it. And at the rate of extinction of species, which is about one a day right now, and by the year 2000, maybe one a minute, and those are rather accurate projections, we might be the last species, and indeed then we may ourselves be in jeopardy as our habitats become so imperiled by human activity.
We have a tremendous opportunity to allow people to see the diversity, the wonders of different types of life that exist on this planet, and thereby we hope to let them come to appreciate this more and to participate more actively in saving the wildlife, saving the forms of plants and animals that are in danger on our planet.
Did you ever wonder what animals at the San Diego Zoo eat? They eat a lot of the same foods that we eat. For instance, like human babies, young animals are often fed special milk formulas and fruit sauces. Their favorites include applesauce and mashed bananas. Do some animals eat foods you wouldn't like? Probably. Bears, for example, are given cod liver oil, which is rich in vitamins. What do koalas eat in zoos? Leaves, but only those of a few species of eucalyptus trees from their native Australia. The zoo's horticultural department conducted a 2-year experiment to determine which species of eucalyptus was the healthiest for koalas and the best tasting. Then the trees were planted at the zoo. Now there's always an abundant supply of fresh leaves on hand. If you're lucky, you'll see the koalas eating the leaves one by one, but you're more likely to catch them sleeping, their favorite activity. Like most animals, koalas don't overeat, and they only eat the freshest leaves, rejecting the old ones. In the wild, cheetahs chase down their food while running at speeds of more than 60 miles per hour. But since cheetahs can't hunt that way in captivity, zoos create an artificial situation that simulates conditions in the wild. In place of the live prey, like an antelope, that the cheetah would normally hunt, researchers place a food bait that moves. The movement stimulates the cheetah's hunting instinct, its appetite, and its feisty character. Cheetahs at the Wild Animal Park are given food that resembles what they hunt in the wild. These carcasses are a challenge for the big cats because they exercise their jaws and teeth. Other fascinating animals to watch at feeding time are elephants. In the morning, they eat alfalfa-based pelts, which contain all the vitamins and minerals that elephants need to stay healthy. For lunch and dinner, they eat huge amounts of Sudanese hay. A full-grown adult may eat more than 300 pounds a day. They also eat browse, roughage trimmed from bushes around the zoo's grounds. Apples and carrots are a special treat, and sometimes in summer the keepers throw a watermelon into their ponds. As with people, good dental hygiene is recommended for elephants. Zookeepers check the elephant's teeth for infections and to see if they're growing in, moving forward, or falling out. When elephants go looking for food in the wild, their tusks sometimes come in handy for digging, pulling up tender roots, and stripping the bark off trees. But while we enjoy watching the elephants, we shouldn't forget that they're threatened in the wild because of their valuable tusks. For years, people used elephant ivory to make piano keys, jewelry, sculpture, and other artifacts. It's now illegal to trade or sell ivory products in many countries, and new pianos are made with plastic keys. As a result, not as many elephants are being killed for their tusks. Wild elephant poaching, however, is still a problem. Worldwide, elephants are endangered because much of their habitat has been destroyed by human development. Their continued presence and the continued well-being of other animals on our planet will depend on people. We must preserve enough natural habitats for these unique wild animals to survive.
Like ice cream, most people love zoos. More people visit zoos annually than the combined total of those who attend all of the professional baseball, basketball, and football games that are played each year in the United States. But zoos are more than places to enjoy and learn about wildlife. Today, they're the last remaining homes for many endangered species. More and more natural habitat is disappearing because of increased human development and population. Zoos have become havens for wildlife that need a Noah's Ark to survive. The San Diego Zoo has developed a strategy to help save plants and animals from disappearing from the earth. By increasing the number of births of endangered species in captivity, a process called captive breeding, the zoo can then reintroduce some of them into the wild. The Arabian oryx is a good example of why captive breeding in zoos is so important. In the 1960s, this antelope became extinct in the wild. The last remaining 9 oryx were saved and eventually brought to the San Diego Wild Animal Park, in the hope that one last effort might increase their numbers. Was the zoo's captive breeding program successful? More than 200 Arabian oryx have been born in captivity, and some of these have been reintroduced into their native Middle Eastern habitats. Several hundred more are living in zoos where they help educate people about the value of captive breeding. The Return of Przewalski's Horse would be an apt title for a successful movie about this horse, which became extinct in Mongolia in the 1960s. Since then, zoos have not only saved the Przewalski's horse from extinction, but also raised more than 30 young. 1,000 of them now live in zoos around the world. This story should soon have an even happier ending. When the total captive number in China reaches 80 animals, Przewalski's horse will be released into a large wildlife preserve located along the border between China and Mongolia. The California condor is a powerful, graceful bird with a wingspan of more than 10 feet when soaring. People used to be amazed at the great heights these birds attained. Now, people may again stand in awe as they watch the California condor fly in the wild, thanks to the massive effort to save them. In 1982, only 9 birds remained. Captive breeding efforts by the Los Angeles Zoo and the Zoological Society of San Diego have increased this rare bird's numbers to 64 today. When it was time to reintroduce the California condor into the wild, San Diego Zoo staff constructed a man-made cave that closely resembled the rock cavities condors live in on mountainsides. The California condor's new cave home was airlifted by helicopter to an ideal location. It was hoped that newly released captive birds would make this artificial cave their home, a safe base from which to become accustomed to their new surroundings. Success at last! In January 1992, an historic event happened. The place? California's Sespe Condor Sanctuary in Ventura County. The big event? The first release of captive-bred California condors back into their native range. The release of California condors into the wild was the result of a 10-year captive breeding program. This majestic bird again flies free, just as it has for hundreds of years, thanks to captive breeding. High in the rugged Chonglai Mountains of central China, a young farm worker raced across the potato fields toward home. "I found a giant panda that is starving," she excitedly told her family and the other farm workers as she arrived at the village. The people knew they should help the suffering animal. This is because giant pandas are an unusual and rare species of bear living only in China's interior mountain ranges. Giant pandas are considered a national treasure of the People's Republic of China, and they are a critically endangered animal. Even one death would be a great loss to the species' survival. Immediately, the rescue began. The villagers dropped what they were doing and rushed to save the giant panda. They grabbed a large cage, some rope, and a long pole, then followed the young girl back across the fields and into a forest thick with towering fir, spruce, and maple trees. They crossed a raging stream and entered an area, Bassi Gully, that was covered with dying patches of bamboo as far as they could see. Near the bamboo and partly submerged in the stream lay a young giant panda. It was barely alive. The farm worker and the villagers quickly pulled the animal from the water. They dried it with their jackets. The dull eyes of the panda gazed up at the girl as it panted for breath. Several other rescuers lifted the panda into the cage. The long pole was tied to the top of the cage, making it easy for the villagers to carry the panda out of the forest. 2 men, one at each end, balanced the pole on their shoulders so that the caged panda dangled between them. Then they brought the panda back to their rescue station. There, the starving panda, a female that was named Bassi after the gully in which she was found, was nursed back to health. Bassi was starving because the bamboo was dying in various regions of China. Bamboo leaves, shoots, and stalks are the giant panda's main food. Although they will also eat meat, pandas are usually too slow to catch the rats, squirrels, and other small mammals that share their forest habitat. Like everything else, it is normal for bamboo to die. usually dying about every 40 to 100 years. Before it dies, the bamboo, which is really a woody grass, flowers. Then it drops seeds, so new bamboo can sprout. Several years must pass, though, before the seeds grow into tall new bamboo plants that the giant pandas can eat. Years ago, when the bamboo died in one area, the giant panda could travel easily to a different mountain to find more living bamboo. But now, new farms and villages often block their way, so many pandas simply starve to death in withered bamboo patches. Then, too, many forests and bamboo thickets have been destroyed to build these farms and villages. The villagers were pleased that they had saved Bassie's life. After she fully regained her strength at the giant panda rescue station, the Chinese government decided that she would not be returned to the wild. Instead, she would live at the Fuzhou Zoo. She and a male giant panda named Yan Yan were later chosen to go to the United States as goodwill ambassadors to help many people learn about the endangered status of the giant panda. The lucky zoo chosen to host Bassie and Yan Yan was the San Diego Zoo in California. When San Diego Zoo staff heard that the giant pandas were coming to visit, the excitement began. Giant pandas had never been in San Diego before. Indeed, a lot of people were thrilled that the world's most famous zoo would be the temporary home for a pair of one of the world's most popular animals. When the giant pandas arrived in San Diego, a lot of excited people greeted them. Even reporters and photographers were there. More than 50 waited eagerly as Bassie and Yan Yan arrived in a huge airplane after a 17-hour flight from China. Everyone waited breathlessly as the airplane's cargo hatch opened. Bassie and Yan Yan had traveled in their own private compartment, complete with heating and air conditioning. The photographers leapt off the bus and raced toward the jet. High above the clicking cameras sat Bassie and Yan Yan in their travel cages, peering down at the excited, grinning crowd. The giant pandas were here, at last! A few days after Bassie and Yan Yan arrived, zoo roosters crowed, peacocks cackled, kookaburras giggled, and a mist rose from the hippo's pond. People were already lining up at the main entrance to the zoo. Today was the first day for people to see the giant pandas. 800 special friends of the San Diego Zoo were invited to the celebration. With the sharp crack of a drum and the clanging of cymbals, a traditional Chinese lion dance began the festivities. Dancers in a colorful, shimmering lion costume swooped and swirled past the crowd. Young children joined the excited crowd, marching by, waving pink, blue, green, and yellow flags. Then, with 2 clangs of a Chinese gong, the bamboo curtains to the panda's enclosure were rolled up. A few moments later, out waddled Yan Yan. The crowd gasped at its first sight of this special animal. Yan Yan's keeper celebrated too, by giving Yan Yan a paw shake, and then she dropped a bunch of plump red grapes into his furry palm. Suddenly, Bassie made her first appearance. Her keeper, Cao Ling, handed Bassie a bouquet of colorful flowers, which Bassie accepted and then waved them to the crowd. Her next feat was to push a stroller across the floor. Bassie had trouble steering the stroller, so Cao Ling helped her guide it. Whenever Cao Ling spoke to Bassie, in Chinese of course, the trained panda knew just what to do. When Cao Ling handed Bassie a human baby doll, the panda cradled it in her arms and gently patted it on the back. People oohed and awed, and many people secretly hoped that Bassie would one day become a mother to a baby panda. Most certainly, Bassie would care for her own baby a bit differently. A giant panda is born blind and helpless. Its eyes are closed until it is 40 days old. Its pink body is covered with thin white hair that doesn't begin to thicken and turn black in parts until it is a week old. The newborn panda weighs about 4 ounces, the weight of a stick of butter, and it is 800 times smaller than its mother. To protect her infant and to keep it warm during its first month of life, the mother panda holds it in one furry paw, cradling it against her body. Her cub's loud cries are a signal that it is hungry. the mother holds her infant to her breast up to 14 times a day so it can suckle her milk. As the baby grows bigger and stronger, it nurses less often. The mother will leave an older cub alone in a den while she feeds on bamboo. By the time a cub is 7 months old, it has grown considerably and is about the size of the cub in this picture. Bassie and Yan Yan lived in separate areas in their exhibit at the San Diego Zoo. This was because giant pandas live by themselves in the wild. They are only together when they breed. Still, if the pandas felt friendly, they could rub noses or touch paws through the bars that divided them. Later, when they got to know each other better, they enjoyed playing with each other. People especially enjoyed these antics as prime-time entertainment. Bassie and Yan Yan were handled by their trainers for a very special reason. If they were used to people, then researchers could easily gather valuable information about them. Mr. Chen, the Fuzhou Zoo director, made house calls to the pandas' exhibits. During his examinations, he gathered valuable data. He listened to the pandas' heartbeats, took their temperatures, and measured their blood pressures and breathing rates. He could even give the animals shots if they were sick or collect blood samples. The medical data Mr. Chen collected and the information he learned about the pandas would be helpful to other scientists who are trying to save the giant panda from extinction. Before waving goodbye to the zoo guests, Bassie entertained them with one more feat. She balanced on a teeter-board and caught colorful rings with her paws. With thundering applause from the crowd, the panda premiere and Bassie and Yan Yan's first performance ended. Bassie was then treated to a feast of bamboo and apples and was soon sound asleep.
What can you do to help save resources that preserve animals and their homes? Here's a good idea. It's called Cans for Critters, an aluminum can recycling drive that has been a big hit at the San Diego Zoo for more than 10 years. The money raised by school kids is no small pocket change. One year, the recycling drive raised more than $50,000. Who receives the money? The Zoo's Center for Reproduction of Endangered Species, which conducts valuable research to save animals in danger of extinction. Sometimes, CRES's efforts to save a species are so successful that the animals can be returned to their native habitat. There's an important link between recycling aluminum cans and saving endangered animals. You see, aluminum is made from bauxite, a mineral mined from soil, often found beneath rainforests. And living in the rainforest is a wide selection of animals, many of them endangered because the forests are being cut down. Endangered animals have a better chance of survival if the rainforests are left undisturbed. That's why recycling aluminum cans is important. The more we recycle, the less bauxite we'll need, and the rainforest homes of many animals will be preserved. Besides, think of all the other natural resources we use to make cans. Package them, color them, and transport them to stores. Cans for Critters teaches students how the can collection system works. An entire classroom can become involved, or people can participate by themselves. As an added incentive, the zoo offers prizes, like animal stickers, coupons for pizzas and ice cream, and free passes to the zoo and San Diego Wild Animal Park. Of course, you don't have to join the Cans for Critters program to recycle cans. You can start your very own recycling program. Did you know that the energy saved by recycling just one aluminum can is enough to operate a television set for 3 hours? During one recent year, enough cans were recycled to save more than 11 billion kilowatt hours of electricity, enough to supply all the houses and apartments in New York City for 6 months. Perhaps even more amazing is the fact that people in the United States throw away enough cans each year to rebuild all the airplanes that fly our major airlines. Here's how you can make a difference. Whether you do the recycling yourself, join in with your classmates at school, or help with the recycling efforts at your workplace. A. Buy products with minimal packaging. B. Save cardboard boxes or paper and plastic bags for storing household items. C. Buy products like cleaners, toiletries, and dry goods in economy-sized packages. Consider buying your food in bulk. It'll save you money and reduce packaging waste too. D. Churn decayed organic materials from your yard into mulch or fertilizer. E. Reduce your junk mail. That saves a lot of paper and trees. Just fill out a form at your local post office to remove your name from the third-class mailing list. A class of students beginning a recycling program could follow these steps. A. Hold a school-wide assembly to educate your fellow students about recycling. Invite guest speakers, such as a recycling center director or a community leader, to talk about their activities. B. Submit an article about your program to the school newspaper, and send a news release to local newspaper editors and to radio and television reporters. They may respond by publicizing your efforts. If you work in an office that's beginning a recycling program, consider the following steps. A. Contact your local collection agency. Its staff can help you plan your recycling program. B. Choose people in your office to coordinate your recycling efforts and to motivate others. You'll also have to figure out how you're going to store what you collect. Sometimes recycling companies supply offices with storage containers at no cost. Make sure everyone knows what kind of paper you'll be recycling. White only, mixed colors, or newspapers. It's a good idea to place small recycling containers around your office. These can be periodically dumped into a larger collection bin. Those are just a few ways you can get involved. Remember, each of us can make a difference. Yes, we can heal the earth, and recycling is one of the best and easiest ways to do it.